Bridging the gap. Stay tuned and all will be revealed. Well, good morning everyone and welcome to Piccadilly Eastway and what could be described as another scene of devastation compared to the last shot you saw in the previous video. I had those pieces of card standing up to represent the walls, and I had that Metcalfe viaduct coming across here to represent what will be there in the future. Now, I went ahead and papier-mâchéed, and although many people thought I'd be papier-mâchéing for many hours, no. 4 sheets of newspaper, or 6, I think it was actually 6. Just tear it up into tiny little bits. I had the masking tape as a base layer, as you probably saw in the last clip, and I literally painted neat PVA on, strip of newspaper, paint over the top, and you just keep adding. It took about an hour to do that, and there's probably about 5 or 6 layers. However, you'll probably noticed it's no longer attached. Why? Because I thought I'll test out the water tightness of the river. Well, you can see the river has changed quite a lot. And that was because even though I put a towel underneath down here, water literally gushed out. You can't make it up, can you? Now, I thought I had the bed flat, but it wasn't quite. And even though I tested that across there with the spirit level, that was bang on level, that was bang on level, that was bang on level, and I thought this is going to be fine. But there obviously was a bit of a dip in this area here because water just went everywhere. Now, I'm glad I tested it with water because can you imagine what that would be like if that was resin? Exactly. So I'd rather do that with water and just have a wet carpet which will dry, and it's absolutely fine again, as you can appreciate. So I thought I need to raise the height of the wall all the way round, and to do that it was obvious that I needed to peel this back, hence that. Right, so once I'd put the wall in, I thought I'll buy some CT1, which is the paler brown stuff, which is a sealer cum adhesive. For those of you who are in the know, you buy it in a mastic tube and you put it in a mastic gun and you sort of pull the trigger and it comes out the end, as you can appreciate. Now, but once I'd put that wall in, this black extra height all the way around, it was again bluntly obvious that it wasn't going to go underneath these pieces because these were 3D printed, and there's obviously a flange across the top which is an arc, as you can see. There was a vertical piece and then another straight flange across the bottom, but there wasn't enough height for that wall to go underneath them, so I had to take everyone out, sort of remove the bottom section, shall we say, which left just this bit, and then you've got the plastic arc, which was very floppy and certainly wouldn't have been strong enough to support that. So I had to sort of beef this up a bit. So there's a couple of extra layers of thick plastic card over the top, and this is corrugated card for extra strength. So that is a lot stronger than it was. Some of them are a bit stronger than the others, but I am planning on putting some others coming this way, which will again beef it up a bit all the more, because then each one will be relying on the ones that are next to it. So that should be absolutely fine. But anyway, the next stage after that is I need to start thinking about what I'm going to do in the river, because obviously that's all nice and sealed up now. So it shouldn't have a problem when I pour the resin in. But I do need to repaint this and put sand and gravels and all sorts of bits and bobs in there to make it look a little bit more river-like. But before that goes in, I am going to start thinking about the structures that are going along here, which need to be stuck to the riverbed, and then the sand and gravels go all the way round outside of that. And then I'm going to have to make another viaduct which is going to come across here, because that one's clearly not long enough, and I think it would be easier to start from scratch than what it would be to use that one. Right, anyway, I'll crack on and I'll catch you shortly. Right, so I thought I'd better give you an idea of what's going on here. I've decided to replace this viaduct, and as you can see, it needs so much work doing to it. And as I said to you before, the other side wasn't bricked up. So, you know, that's the way it is. So I've made these 3D printed parts. That's 3D printed. And the arches and those are 3D printed. That there is card and plastic card covered in brick paper. Now, decided to use brick paper purely because I experimented with the embossing tool on the Cricut machine and results weren't bad, but to get a finish even remotely like that would have taken a lot of hard work, as you can appreciate. I wasn't able to flood it with a mortar wash, which you can do if you use a laser cutter, but I'm not going to rush out and go and buy a laser cutter when brick papers will do the job just as well. And these have been varnished with the matte varnish that I always use, the Liquitex stuff. And once that's dry completely, I can go over there with weathering, salting and all sorts of bits and bobs. It should be absolutely fine. Now, what I've decided to do is have these base pieces actually glued inside the riverbed. So that actually when you look at it, it is touching the water. And you can see the first piece will go under the board without any problems. And then the middle piece will stop just short of this area here. So it'll give you, it still gives me access into there without any issues at all. So, and you can see I'm just going slowly because it's not glued, not yet. This piece here, I did have to move it back slightly because I kind of underestimated the gap between them. I'd already 3D printed the arches, and when I put it all together, well, sometimes it works like that, doesn't it? And you have to modify things as you go along. So those are 3D printed. That's card and plastic card. The two arches are 3D printed, as you can imagine. It doesn't matter that they're different colours. It's going to be covered in brick paper. And the two outsides are card, 2mm card. So you can see in there. And yeah, it has got a bit streaky just gluing it together, but it doesn't matter because I've got to put salting inside there and all sorts of bits and bobs, so it should be fine. Now, hopefully I can do this one-handed. It is a bit tricky. I'll give you the idea of what's going on there. It's not quite in line, but you can certainly see what's happening there. The other piece that's going just there is printing as we speak. And that will be fitted to this section here so that I can remove that when I slide this down. I am going to put a locator inside there, so there'll be a piece of card stuck to the top of the pillar, and then this hole in top of the arch, and the same on that one will just literally slot over the top. That's the idea, and it should line up quite nicely. Now, so getting there bit by bit by bit by bit. Okay then, so I've managed to do put these bits on the top and the same onto that one, and that one goes into there just like that, and that one goes in there like that. And I haven't managed to do the one just yet. It's printed, but I haven't managed to paint the top of it or put the paper on it or anything like that yet. But the whole point of this bit was to show you what I do with the weathering. So I'll just give you a basic idea on one of these first. So first of all, I have sealed it with matte varnish. That is very important. I can't stress that enough because that protects the paper should it go pear-shaped. And it does sometimes, I'm not going to lie. So I've just got some of that. Okay, and all I'm just going to do is streak it down. That's a little bit too vibrant, to be honest with you. But you want it to run. So I'll knock that back a bit. So just giving it a little bit of a running over, a bit there, a bit there. Wish to do so. There's no rights and wrongs with this, to be honest. There you go. I've done all of this as well, so it's literally just a case of just flicking inside there and then downward strokes on the outside of that. And you can see that, and I've done that one as well. Some heavy bits, some dry. That's hidden, by the way. But some heavy bits, some light bits. It really doesn't make the slightest jot of difference. Now I'm going to go in with a little bit of black. Now you only want to be sparing with this. You don't want to go mad. So just the tiniest little bit, and I'm literally just going to flick. That's it. Tiny bit there. Just a touch in the pot. And so that's a little bit heavy, so I'm just going to wipe some of that off. Again, just streak it on. That's the back. That'll do. This one, again, it's literally just a flicking action, to be honest. Does seem to be, these arches do seem to be blacker at the top for some reason or another. I'm not sure quite why, but it probably might have been from the steam days, to be honest, if steamships or steam locomotives. I'll turn it up the other way. But it's literally just a case of just light brush. As I said, you really don't want a lot of black. And lastly, for the white. Now, I do honestly feel that this is probably the most important. So I'm using a brush like this, and I'm going to dab it out onto a piece of paper card. So I can literally just do that. All this sort of salting and spotting is quite important, and then flick down. So there will be some bits like that, and then that's it. And such. I'll rub that back a bit. That's gone a bit heavy, but that's better. Even just rubbing it over your finger. I'll do this bit first, and I'll do that off cam. But again, it's literally just a case of streaking it down, because the salt is going to fall on this bit. So on. And then again, just make sure it runs vertically. Just a bit of a flick, and then a few sort of spots like so. Now on the outside, I'm not going to do it all by any means, but just again, just a bit of spotting. I do quite like my buildings and bridges heavily weathered. It doesn't mean I'm going to do them all, but I think it just adds a little bit of extra interest. And welcome back. So there it is on the layout, as you can see, and this bit, as I've said before, does lift off, but you can also see these extra sections that are going on at the end here. Now that's obviously just the basic structure, and there's going to be a lot more stuff added to it. Currently working on the girder bridge, as you can see there, and that's going to be more of a traditional type girder bridge, which is like a rectangle type stuff with the ribs going across, and obviously the same the other side. They are slightly different angles either side, and I'm not worried by that. You can see one's more like that and one's more shallow, just to match the track, if you like. But again, I'm really not that worried by that. Now, to make the sides of these abutments, if you like, I'm not sure what else to call them, trying to make them a little bit more interesting by trying out some experimentations with these arches that would go on the side. Now, looking at that, I think that's just a little bit too small, and the side ones need to come probably up to the full height, and the arches probably need to come up to the height of that ledge. But yeah, if I put some on the face, just there, that size probably would be about right, to be honest with you. So it's just a case of playing around with it, making it look as right as I can. It's very loosely based, I should say, on Fledborough, which is near Corby and Peterborough. So it's that one doesn't have this feature on it. It has like double columns, which I think wouldn't look quite right in this circumstance, because it doesn't have exactly this setup, whereas there is a lot of arches and then there's a part going over water, which would probably be more appropriate just there when I come to do that section down there. So it's, you know, there's things to work out, things to think about, but it'll be all right. Now, there is also going to be a grid going across here, and then there'll be a road on top of that. So you won't see the grid from above, obviously, but I do want to raise the road level up to probably about there. So this is quite a low wall, and then there'll be a railing on top of that. I probably will thicken this up a little bit, because that does look a little bit on the thin side at the moment. That's, in true reality, would only be 6 inches wide, so that's not anywhere close enough. So that will need to be quite a bit thicker, with coping stones on the top, etc, etc, drain pipes and all sorts of bits and bobs. And drain pipes going maybe even down into the river might be quite a nice touch as well. I'll have a look and see what I can find, and we'll come back to you shortly. And there we are. That is as much as I'm going to do for this particular video. And you can see I've got trains running, and yes, 2 familiar trains from recent times, and sorry Ewan, yours will come soon, I'm sure. But anyway, there has been a few modifications since the last time you saw this. Obviously I got these 2 end pieces in, but I did sort of toy with the idea of having narrow and tall pillars or columns in there, if you like, but looking at it, I just decided to go for the original type of arch, which I think does look an awful lot better than the that small thin idea. Obviously that's not weathered, and they will be needing to tie together. So once that's done, they will start to look an awful lot more similar to each other. I've also done the same on that side and left the narrow walls blank. Okay, there is a string detail to go on all the way round, and so on, that type of thing. Okay, so next, as you can see, I've also got the girder bridge basically printed. So it has come out a little rough on the back, and that is because the base plate has got glue on it, and it has to have, because sometimes things don't stick quite as well, and putting Pritt stick on there and any other type of similar glue does really help that. But the idea, what I'm thinking, is to leave the flat back, because there are some bridges, including Fledborough, that do have that, or although it being the other way round, and rust it up. So put dense rust patches in there, that type of thing, and then have a little thin strip of plastic card running around the top, just to give it a little bit more of an edge, and then sort of press some rivets into that by using a point type affair onto a rubberized surface. So that should be all right. And then, as I said before, I was going to put a grid inside there to represent the bottom of the bridge. Even though that's going to be covered, it will provide a sound surface. Might make some more to go into these 2 sections here, which I think would be probably a good idea for that. But as you can see, the whole thing now does look considerably better than what it did even just a few weeks ago. And as we look at the whole scene, it's really starting to come together. I'm kind of itching to put grass on this, to be honest with them, fix it down again and get grass on it. but I know that I've got to finish this first and then start on the buildings and the structures over there, which are going to go into the river. And then once they're in, then I can put the resin in. It's a bit of a process, I'm afraid, but that's the way life is. All right. Anyway, I'm going to leave the video there. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you've enjoyed seeing how that particular part of the bridge is going to lift out, and that will allow the river to sort of slide across as and when I need it to. But anyway, you just take care of yourself, and I will catch you again very, very soon here on Piccadilly Eastway. Bye-bye for now.